We're calling it Creator Chats, the reality behind the influencer. It's hosted by our own fabulous Florian Gramshammer, MD of EMEA, Impact.com. So I'm going to welcome him to the stage, and I'd like you to join me.
Come on. Thanks, Owen. Hello, last session of the day. I am delighted to be joined by Alice and Tash for our creator chat. Please take a seat, ladies. I am Flo. I'm not an influencer, but you can find me on LinkedIn if you need to. And somehow somebody added also my follower number on here, which is a little bit embarrassing, but fine. I'm gonna let Tash and Alice introduce themselves. Two very different creators, both of them amazing. I'm gonna let them speak in their own words quickly about their introductions, and I will jump into some really interesting questions for you guys. Cool. Alice, do you want to go first?
Yes, so I'm Alice Thorpe. I am a influencer. I've been creating videos firstly on YouTube for over 10 years now. I've just worked out, which makes me feel really old. And I also create on Instagram, and I'm slowly getting my way into TikTok. I do lifestyle-based videos. I also do graphic design videos, so I try and teach people how to do graphic design and make it more accessible to those people that maybe can't quite afford Adobe products, etc. So that's what I do.
Thanks, Alice. Tash?
Cool. I'm Tasha. I have been doing influencing for about a year now. I actually refer to myself as a gymfluencer because I do a lot of content in the gym. I do a lot of more fun stuff, less workouty, more enjoy yourself whilst you're training. My main platform is TikTok, which I think you can probably see on the screen. But slowly but surely, I've been working my way into the YouTube and Instagram space.
Thanks. I'm curious, right? There's a bit of a chicken and egg thing, followers, content. How did you get into the whole thing, right? Where did you start? How did you build your content? How did you start building your followers? Alice?
So for me, obviously it's been 10 years and it was sort of a slow burner for me. I basically left school and hated it. So I was like, I want to do something different. Obviously live with my parents still, so I made the most of it. I was a classic pretending to be a beauty influencer, wannabe Zoella. And then I morphed into an Instagram? I morphed into a university creator, and then over time I've sort of come out of uni. I specialised in graphic design, so now I sort of show my process as a designer. A lot of people watch my videos to gain design skills, particularly during lockdown because everyone was at home with not much to do, was watching tutorials. So that's sort of mostly where a lot of my followers have come from, and they've sort of followed me through from that.
That's amazing. Did you do anything specifically to build your following other than create content? Which is kind of strange to say in a room full of very strategical people, I have zero strategic brain at all. So no, I don't have any, which is probably not a good thing. I can learn a lot from you guys. So no, I just kind of created things. I followed trends as much as I can, sort of see what's working. When I see a video that's got a particular amount of views, I'll try and sort of repurpose that in a different way moving forward. But yeah, my analytical and strategy brain is kind of lacking. Tash, very short time to, what is it? Nearly 500,000 followers?
Yeah, nearly.
What's the magic?
That's the goal. Yeah, so again, I started around lockdown as well. So it started with me and my friends. They wanted to keep fit over lockdown. So I started a new Instagram, and I was just helping them keep fit. And then when the gyms opened, I was so excited that I kind of continued it. And I literally posted one video on TikTok. It went viral. I woke up the next day, it was on 20 million. And then that's when it all started. I was like, I need to capitalize on this. So then from that, I was just posting once a day, every day for a year. And that's how I got to where I am. So consistency is very key. Amazing.
Kind of creating a following, creating content. When did you realize there was a commercial opportunity there? How did you start that? How did you get into that? What was the driver, and how did you get started with that? Tash, maybe you go first.
Yeah. So obviously, when I started to go viral, I was just kind of like, this is exciting. I didn't really think about the money behind it or anything like that. So I was just continuing doing what I enjoyed, because I loved going to the gym and I enjoyed making the content and stuff. And then I kind of just fell into the money, because brands, after a while, they'll start to see you going viral and they'll be like, hi, can we send you some free clothes and stuff like that? And then that's how it all started. So I didn't actually do much outreach at the beginning. It was more brands reaching out to me, and then I realized, actually, I can make quite a bit of money from this, and then that's how it just kind of got a bit more serious from there.
Amazing.
So
Alice?
for me, it was sort of different, because when I first started, it was kind of still a novelty that influencing was actually a job and a career. It was still like a very niche thing to be doing. I didn't do any outreach. It was more the brands coming to me, and right from the start being quite selective with the brands that I did choose. And I found that was the best way of sort of learning. It was kind of a learn on the go process.
Yeah, I mean, one of the amazing opportunities for brands with influencers is to tap into audiences that they might not so easily otherwise reach. You have unique followings. I understand you think quite a bit about the brands that you work with in relation to your followers to kind of keep that real and authentic and alive. Tell me a little bit more about how you make some of those decisions. Whoever wants to go first.
Okay, I'll go first. So obviously when brands reach out to me, ideally it will be a brand that I already love, because then it just makes sense. I already wear their clothes and it's quite like an easy sell for me. But then there's like always going to be like new brands that reach out to me and stuff like that. And in which case, if they do, I'll do a lot of like research on my end, just to make sure it kind of fits with my niche and like the followers that I have. Because if it doesn't work like for me, then it won't work for them either. So then I'll do it that way. And then if it is a new brand, there will always be like a trial period that I like recommend for the brand, so that I'll get used to wearing their clothes. I'll make sure that it's something that I would actually like to recommend. Because, I mean, we've all spoken about it. I think San was speaking about it earlier, about the authenticity piece and, like, the trust. So as soon as you break that trust with your audience, then, you know, it's not going to be successful. So you want to be promoting stuff that you actually, like, genuinely believe in and enjoy and like and stuff like that.
Yeah, I mirror pretty much everything Tasha said. And I think it's really important to value what, like, they want honesty from you. So my viewers trust me. The second if I were to promote a brand that I didn't believe in or didn't like, for example, I don't drink coffee, never have, don't like it. If I promoted coffee, they'd see straight through me. Someone could approach me and offer me a great deal for coffee that would pay my mortgage for the month, and I'm going to say no. That's kind of a drastic example, but the authenticity of it, and like we mentioned previously, de-influencing, super important. So not everything I post is brand related, or I'm not trying to sell you something. A lot of what I post is about like teaching people things and adding value, and then in that they develop trust, and trust like when I do recommend a software or a piece of tech or something like that.
Amazing. It's one thing kind of creating that, maintaining that trust. You do get paid for some of that. Let's zoom out for a second. How did you realize what your own worth is in that? Like, where did you start with being paid for your content?
So I started being paid like quite early on. Obviously, I've only done this for a year, so I did get into it quite quickly, which was good. I got a lot of like sponsorship deals. So I think we spoke about this before in one of the other chats, but they're like kind of the long-term deals rather than the one-off content. Like, can you just film a video and I'll pay you this much? It's more like, can you film videos for us for like, I don't know, a 6-month contract? And then you also like build that kind of trust. Yeah. I forgot what I was going to say after that.
How did you figure out your own worth? Like, how did you decide what your content is worth?
So I'm quite fortunate in the fact that I've been invited to a lot of like influencer events and stuff like that. So we kind of like made friends, and like we all discuss and like talk about the brands that we work with and things like that. And that means that we've like created a benchmark between ourselves. So we kind of know like what kind of money we should be working towards and what we should be like asking for. Because before I had that and before we did that, I had no clue. So like when a brand would come to me and say like, what's your budget? Or like, how much do you charge for this video? I'd just like say a random number and they'll be like, okay, yeah, sure. Whereas like there's so much room for like negotiation, and you don't realize that unless you talk to other influencers and realize like how much you can actually get from it.
Power of the network.
Yeah.
Alice?
I feel like definitely a change in the industry that I've seen. So Tasha mentioned that like she's got sort of a peer group that talk about the amount of money that you can kind of expect for different things, whereas my background of YouTube, people were quite often secretive about it, and it was more like taboo. And I think at that point it was still a bit strange that you could earn money from it, and it was almost a bit embarrassing that you could earn X amount. But now talking about it openly is very, very important, and valuing a creator's time and the amount of effort it like takes to do such a thing, and like they are putting a lot of trust into you as a brand, as well as you putting a lot of trust into them for you to sort of represent each other equally. So yeah.
Let's talk about that process for a second. It's a really good segue there. Producing content takes time, and time is money. Just working with a brand, you get approached by a brand, you agree to work with them. Tasha, in your case, I know you do it directly, you have an agent that helps with that. But ultimately, you end up working with a brand. What is the best way for you, with that brand, figuring out the right content and how that gets produced?
So I prefer sort of getting a brief. So just a deck, maybe 3 to 5 pages long, a little bit of a summary of the brand themselves. Usually I'll already know the brand. If I don't, it's great to have like links. As much information as you can give me is amazing. And then usually within that campaign, brands will have some sort of key messages that they sort of want me to touch on. I think the importance when working with creators is to allow some creative freedom. So yes, of course, we're happy to touch on those key messages because that's the whole point in working together, but allowing a creator to do it in their own tone of voice that like I know what my viewers are going to appreciate and click. So sort of the trust between the brand, clear brief, and an understanding of sort of the whole process, how long things take, and a clear expectation of when you want things back from your creator is also really important.
Yeah, just a follow-up question to that. Like, particularly create long-form content, right? Like, so editing that afterwards isn't quite as straightforward, and it kind of takes time and effort. Do you kind of put brackets around how many edits you allow from a brand, or how much input they can have on the content that you create?
Yeah, so sort of the method I work with, I'm very lucky to have an agent that sort of speaks with brands, but even prior to that, we sort of allowed sort of 2 rounds of approval. So as long as I've got a detailed brief, pretty much like 80% of the time I'd nail it straight away. So the brief is very, very important. But if there were an odd change, like change the hashtag, et cetera, then we'd do 2 rounds of changes. But particularly in the work I do weekly vlogs at the moment, so I'll vlog all week, edit on a Monday, upload on a Monday. So it's a very quick turnaround. So I'll get that video to them 5 days prior. So that's when it's very important to have a good connection with the brand and have a good contact that can get back to you as soon as possible. And then it keeps things moving in that kind of sense.
Yeah, collaboration's so important.
Yeah.
Tash, creating the right content.
Yeah. So my process is a little bit different. Probably likely because I do a lot more short form than long form. But we don't really do any briefs or whatever. My brands kind of just like trust me to do my own content. They've seen what I do, and it's more like the organic stuff that I do in the gym that works. And also it's not really like, you know, me putting a product in front of the camera. It's more like me just being in the gym and doing my own thing and like wearing the clothes, and then hopefully from that it will be like, oh, what are you wearing and stuff like that. So it is a little bit different, and I do prefer obviously like the creative freedom of that, because then it means that I can do what I want to do, but then also I know my audience more than a brand would, and I know what will convert best and what will work best for my audience.
Yeah, so freedom to create, really important, right? Yeah. And the freedom to create is because you're creating for your audience. Your audience does these days know that you get paid for it. You have to hashtag your paid content with ad, etc. Have you ever kind of had reactions from your audience to that in a way that they think you're selling to them, or that they think it's not quite, you know, you're doing it for the money rather than for the real love of the product?
Well, for me, again, because I'm not really going to the camera and saying, "Hi guys, buy this." I'm literally just in the gym doing my own thing, and then it's just kind of like a side product that they're like, oh, okay, what are you wearing? That looks good on you, whatever, I want to buy that. So for me, it's kind of like native. It's not really like overtly selling. So I haven't really had any like negative feedback of like you're selling too much or you're only doing this for that. It's literally kind of just fits in with my whole content.
Cool.
So my approach is obviously a little bit different. Mine is a little bit more like, I've tried this product, it's great, I think you should too. So it is a little bit more clear. But I think there was a little bit of pullback in the beginning when the ASA guidelines changed and you had to post it, because I think it was like the bigger, huge creators, you didn't really realize how often they were promoting.
Yeah.
But personally, I've never experienced anything. I think a lot of the time, because I have developed that trust with my audience, they know that the brand I'm talking about is good, and they sort of are cheering me on. Like, they're happy that I've got a sponsorship, and they know that I really like this product or I wouldn't be talking about it. So it goes back to authenticity and building that trust. And then that sort of pays off because they will click on that ad and they will get engaged with it.
What can brands do to get your attention? What's a good way? Like, you don't get the brief up front, right? Like, if a brand is coming to you and is asking you to potentially promote their product, what's the best way for them to get your attention?
So I like a brand that knows what they want. I want someone who's done their research, because obviously I'm not going to suit every brand, and knows sort of what I do. You don't need to like flatter my ego or anything. Just like, we've seen your channel, we want to do this, so we want to do a 3 to 5 minute mention on YouTube and Instagram story, and this, what are your rates? Let's chat about it. That's sort of it. Like, you don't, as long as you've got a good product and I sort of have a link to it and I can click on it straight away, that's all it needs. And then I'd send it straight to my agent and he'd sort it out, or even coming forward with the rate to begin with. Like, we have this budget, do you want to work together? It's as simple as that for me.
Yeah, very similar with me. I think that I'm sure most of you in the room can attest to this, that like when you get a lot of people like messaging you, you don't always get around to like responding to everyone. So I do prefer it when a brand kind of sticks out and like I can see that they've personalized the email and they actually have watched my content. So like sometimes people will like spell my name wrong or like copy and paste it from Instagram, and I'm like, okay, well, you obviously haven't watched my content.
Great.
But like if someone like quotes like one of my videos and I'm like, oh, okay, they actually care, they actually did the research, and then I'm more likely to respond, I think.
Gotcha. So we covered kind of brands getting to you, also kind of content creation. A lot of brands will want to kind of ideally strike up a longer term partnership with you that goes just beyond the one kind of campaign. What's a good way for the brand to maintain that relationship with you, other than obviously paying you? A lot more goes into it. What are some of the things that brands do right and wrong in building long-term partnerships with you?
Yeah, okay. So I think for me, the two main things is communication and transparency. So I have this one brand that I work with, Able, I'll say their name. But yeah, and we have like monthly calls. So every month I'll have to send over my insights just to show them all the videos and stuff and the performance and stuff. And we actually like go through the insights and we talk about like, you know, what I could have done better or what I've done well and stuff like that. And they give me advice as well as, you know, us constantly being in communication. That builds a relationship with the brand. I feel closer to them, they feel closer to me, and it's just, it works that way. And I feel like more brands should be more like that. And I do actually, like when I work with other brands, I do like try and reach out to them and be like, we should have like a monthly call or something like that, just to, you know, stay aligned, I think.
Yeah, sort of mirroring that, definitely agree with all of that. I've not had a brand quite that interactive in terms of the process, like the monthly meetings, especially for long-term partnerships. However, I do find that when working with a brand over time, say if they want something uploaded on the 15th of the month, just punctuality, like making sure I've got that brief way ahead of time. I find that really helpful, and the expectations are really clear from the get-go. Like, they're not just going to throw something in that's going to throw me off track and we're going to have to liaise back and forth. Like, clear expectations at the beginning and understanding sort of where you like want to go. And of course a review, send my insights, all that stuff. But again, just allow me the creative freedom to do the creating part.
Yeah. Where do brands go wrong? What do they do for you to not continue on to working with them?
Not pay me on time. Yeah, so I kind of feel like it's sometimes inevitable, but like I can work for a big brand and they want the content delivered on this date, cool, I've done it, no problem. Can you pay me the invoice on that date too? That'd be cool. Like, just set to deadlines. Again, the simple thing of like blanket emails, big no, it's so easy to spot them, and most of the time I'll just skim straight past them because I can tell that they've not even taken the time just to write my first name down. Like, it's as simple as that. I think that's kind of it. The biggest gripe for me is payment. Like, I've got a payment 6 months overdue and there's no sign of it coming anytime soon, and it is a job, and I think sometimes it's quite hard to sort of get that across that I am trying to earn a living and you've paid for a service, and it's valuable.
Yeah, it kind of undervalues you as well, doesn't it? Yeah. Tash, you?
I would say not like respecting my time and also like not seeing my value. So like I've had a lot of like negotiations with brands and like going back and forth and like having to literally send them like pages of like my analytics because they're just like, you know, they don't want to pay as much as they would like, I don't know, like if they were doing a different type of marketing, but they have to realize like you're putting your time into it as well. And like some people still don't see the importance of influencers and stuff. So they're just like, oh, you know, I'll just chuck 100 quid at her or something like that. And then they ask for so much as well. And I'm like, it just doesn't make sense. So it's a lot of like back and forth sometimes of like trying to, you know, make the brand realize that you're actually, you know, putting in some work and actually have to like edit, you know, think of the idea, like film the idea and like do all of this stuff and like engage and things like that. It's not as easy as it seems. No,
it definitely isn't. It takes a lot of time to produce content. There are different ways to get paid, of course. You can be on a retainer, you could be paid a one-off, you could pay on a performance basis. What do you do?
So I've sort of steer clear, and this was mentioned in one of the panels earlier. I steer clear of a brand just coming to me and saying, use our affiliate link, you could earn so much, this person's earned this much over this much time, because up front that doesn't offer me anything. And like even for me to set up wherever I'm hosting that link, whether it's on a video or on my website or anything like that, that takes time. So I need some sort of like assurance that I've sort of earned my keep a little bit, and then anything after that is a bonus. I can't remember the phrase for it, but paying for rights over a certain amount of time.
Yeah.
That's also really valuable. Again, it was mentioned earlier. So if a brand's paid me to create content for them, they can pay for usage rights to use that over time. And I've had that in the past with a big brand who obviously invested into me, and then their investment kept paying because they could repurpose that content. It wasn't just like a one and done. They could use it over a wider period of time, which gave them a better sort of response.
Yeah, obviously huge value to the brand having that content created, but it's fair for you to be paid if they continue using it. Tash?
Yeah, so I guess I started off with a lot of like gifted products and stuff like that. Like that was quite normal when you start off. I think you just kind of get excited when a brand wants to send you like free clothes. But then after a while, you kind of, you know, you get bored of getting free clothes and you have so many. So then you kind of, you know, go into like the CPC stuff. And now, to be honest, I only really accept like fixed fee stuff because I guess I kind of realized my worth. And yeah. So fixed fee, I think. And also CPA is good with alongside the fixed fee because then, you know, you're getting rewarded for what you're actually like, putting in.
Does that help build long-term relationships with brands that you have the opportunity to kind of continue to earn money on a CPA basis?
Yeah, I think so, because it gives you that drive as well. Because yeah, you're getting the fixed fee and you want to keep the fixed fee, so you still want to do well. But then when you can see like how many like conversions you're actually driving. So obviously a lot of these brands will have a platform that you can like access yourself, so you can see how many conversions you're driving and stuff like that, and that really helps like motivate. And then you can look at your analytics, like what videos are doing well, and then you can kind of like change your strategies to like kind of fit that and earn more money and obviously perform better for the brand.
Cool. Whirlwind tour there across a lot of different kind of ways of working. Cover two things really quickly. The first one is kind of content. You just primarily kind of longer content. You do short content. There's you all have kind of different properties. How do you decide what's the right content for you, and kind of do you think about expanding into other formats? What's your thinking there?
Should I go?
So when I started on YouTube, still on it a lot. I upload 30-minute long weekly vlogs, so mine is very long form. They're viewers that are like dedicated to watching it. However, the audience that I gained came from sort of in tutorial style videos, so they were sort of 10 minutes long. But I'm more increasingly going to short form because it is evident with all the stats we've seen them today how much that really can convert and how popular a video can become very quickly. So I'm sort of adapting to that and taking that long form stuff and cutting it down and trying not to ramble so much. And it's kind of hard because I've been doing it for 10 years, but I'm getting there. My TikTok hit 10K the other day. I was very proud of myself. So yeah, definitely short form's on its way, but I'm definitely going to stick to my bread and butter of YouTube because there is that core audience that do it, and the sponsorships from brands that I get on YouTube are the highest paying ones of the 3 platforms that I use, so it's worth going.
Cool.
So I guess I'm on the opposite side of the spectrum. So I do primarily short form, and that's kind of my bread and butter. I'm like quite good at that. I can kind of like churn videos out. I think I told you guys like I post once a day, every day. So it's like quite a lot of content, and doesn't take as long to edit and stuff as like that as long form. But there's a place for long form, and like even places like TikTok are now encouraging you to post long form. So I don't know if any of you have seen it, but there's actually like now you can do 3-minute long videos on TikTok, and I get notifications on TikTok, and they're like, you know, do 1 minute and we'll reward you with this and blah blah blah. So they want us to like start doing more long form as well, which is quite interesting. But I do feel like obviously short form is key at the moment, and I've been trying to get into YouTube. But at the moment, so that YouTube growth is literally all just doing shorts. I haven't made one long form video yet, so I guess that just shows the growth that you can get just from doing the short stuff. But one of these days I will do long form because I know that is quite rewarding, but it's a lot of time.
There's only so much time, right?
Exactly.
And you want to use it wisely. Last question, bit of future gazing. If you had a crystal ball, what do you think is coming? What are the trends to look out for? What are some of the or some topics that people kind of should be aware of? Or
so I think within my sort of industry area, definitely more instructional, teaching people how to do things. You're not just selling them something. I'm trying to give them some value. Short form in the sense, the same thing. So a short form video that catches their attention, I'm teaching them something. That's why I got 10K followers on TikTok, because I taught something. Yeah. So now moving forward, if I talk about that same sort of topic from that video, that's going to land because I know that my viewers want that.
Cool.
So I agree, short form. As we all mentioned, like everyone's attention span's getting shorter, so short form. But then I'll also say like personality and like organic content is becoming a thing now. Like people are like really interested in the person that's selling, and like you'll see like TikTok started off like as a lot of like trending sounds and stuff, but now you'll see that the videos that are like doing the best are the ones that have the original sounds, where people are talking to the camera and like being more personable and showing their personality, and then people can like relate to them a lot more. So I think that's probably going to blow up a bit more as well.
Yeah, just sorry for butting in a little bit. Yeah, and then relatability on it, like just showing your true self, like filming with no makeup on, admitting when you've messed up, stuff like that is really key to sort of building that trust and being like a normal person, because you don't want to be on this. Yeah, you don't want to be on a pedestal. You're not that. No one's going to buy from someone like that. Well, I wouldn't.
Yeah, this is why I think like Instagram isn't doing as well as like TikTok and all the other platforms, because it's just so focused on like, you know, being perfect and like looking a certain type of way and like edited photos and stuff like that. Whereas like TikTok, people wake up and then they start filming. They don't worry about how they look. And I think that's very key to like being relatable.
Nobody wants to see me when I've just woken up on TikTok. Thanks so much for those insights into the reality and the life behind the influencer. We've got a couple of minutes left. Any questions from the audience for Tash or Alice? There's a microphone coming for you.
Hello. Oh, yeah. I don't know. Okay, hi, my name is Mark Johnson. I'm from Media Shots, which is an online publication. Thanks very much. That was a really amazingly interesting chat. I have a question which is about social purpose and what you do. And I was wondering if you had given any thoughts at all about how you would use your platform and your massive appeal to bring about some kind of change in the world. For example, you mentioned earlier you don't like coffee. However, I'm a huge fan of Coca-Cola, but I absolutely hate plastic bottles that they come in. And they have two other options, which are tin and glass. So if I had a platform like yours, I might say, please don't buy this, but buy the other two of the same brand. How do you imagine you can use your platforms for social change and social good?
I think for me, mine is primarily about sort of teaching almost a younger generation of how to make something creative. So when I was at school, I didn't get the chance to do anything to do with design. I wanted to be a photographer at the time, no photography. They wanted me to do geography, history, English, maths, and that was sort of it. So for me, my sort of social change side of things would be sort of inspiring the creative community, because that's not something I had when I was younger.
Yeah, I guess for me, I try to be as positive as I can, and like obviously I'm into like the whole fitness side of things, so I do what I can there in terms of like, you know, trying to encourage people to be fit and like, you know, steer people away from like unhealthy habits and stuff like that. In terms of like the grander like social thing, I think it's quite difficult because I mean, we definitely should. We have the platform. We should definitely talk about it more. But it's quite difficult because I don't think people want to hear that stuff from me. They just want to hear about like the whole, you know, the gym stuff, the fitness side of things, and like that's what they're interested in.
Thanks for the question. Any others? There's one over there, microphone coming for you.
Hi, I hear that, Tasha, you don't have an agent, and Alice, you do have an agent. So I'd be interested in what your opinions are. What are the benefits you find from having an agent? What's the value when it comes to your work, personal support maybe, and getting the deals? And Tasha, why don't you have one? But like, there's obviously some advantages for you, or possibly like why don't you have one, or you prefer to be your Miss Independent? So, first of all.
I can start. So the reason why I don't have one, I think, is just because everything kind of happens so quick. So I've done this like only a year. I've only been doing this for a year. Also, I guess a lot of you guys already know, I do actually work at impact.com. So I have a little bit of knowledge on that side, and I've worked in affiliates for a while. So I kind of have that knowledge myself. So I thought it was quite interesting to have handled the negotiations myself, because now I can see like both sides of things. I've been the negotiator, and now I'm being the negotiator, and I have been the negotiatee. Or whatever. Anyway, however that works.
Both sides of the fence.
Yeah, exactly. So that's why I haven't got a manager yet. And I always thought, you know, I'm not big enough for a manager yet. But I think probably eventually I will have to do that, because it is getting quite a lot of work to handle on my own. But yeah, I find it interesting doing it myself.
So I was very reluctant to get a manager because obviously he takes a cut, like he needs to get paid. So that's the biggest thing that stopped me in the first instance. But I value it so much because like I said earlier, I don't have an analytical brain. I'm very creative. I don't have the insider information like Tasha does. So I didn't know my worth, and sometimes still don't. So having someone that's sort of in the industry and knows benchmarks, because he has other creators to sort of look at, is really, really valuable for me. And I think also sometimes brands find it a lot better. I don't know, I guess this is your guys' opinion, but working with a agency, because you get in a more like consistent, they know how to approach brands, and you're like the middleman between them. So having a manager is just, I couldn't not do it. And I hate replying to emails, so it helps.
Brilliant. That's all we have time for today. Tash, Alice, thank you so much for chatting with me and sharing with your influence.